Welcome back to the Blindsiders. I am Ben here with Dylan and Brian to talk about episode number 5 of Survivor 50. It's our first double boot episode. Well, I guess technically episode 1 was a double boot, but our first proper double boot episode that was designed as a double boot with 2 tribal councils, 2 eliminations, a lot to talk about. I think all of us were probably a little surprised last week with Mike going, but at least for me personally, I came into this episode expecting the 2 people to get booted to be Angelina and Charlie, and they were the 2 people that went. So not a ton of surprising stuff in terms of the outcome, but a lot of fun stuff to talk about on the way to that outcome.
Honestly, the best outcome, I think, for the rest of the season, unfortunately. I think very, very, very disappointed in Charlie's gameplay. I think that we all expected much, much more from Charlie this season, hoping for much, much more from Charlie this season. And we did not get it. Kind of the same story for Angelina. I think that we all had higher expectations for what Angelina could do, but I'm happy to see both of them gone because I think that everybody else that's left in this game has played the role or played a part in the story that I want this season to shape up to be. And I think we're looking at a very, very good post-merge. So I think tonight was the ideal situation of 1, we needed to eliminate people. And 2, I think that they honestly took out 2 of probably the weaker players that were left in this game. So sad to see Charlie go. Wish he played a better game. Sad to see Angelina go. Wish she played a better game. But I think it was the right thing for the fans and for the game. And I'm excited for the merge coming up.
Yeah, I think for Angelina, it just felt like she really had no one after Mike got out. Like, she wasn't really well received on her initial tribe, it seems. And as for Charlie, I think he could have potentially been fine if they didn't swap in this particular way. But I do like the move quite a bit from Camilla to team up with Suri and Rizzo and kind of go forward with that. And I think we're setting up like a fairly interesting clash of like this Coach, Joe, Colby coalition, whoever they get around them, Steph probably, versus Genevieve. Yeah, versus, Christians and Emily coalition. And then is Suri going to go with them, or is Suri going to go with this new thing that she's made? It should be very interesting. Super weird we're getting a merge of 17 people, but we'll save that to the end of the show.
And somebody else brought this up to me first, so I can say it's an original thought, and then I've seen it around a few places after there. I think there's a good chance that we have our faux merge and only 14 people actually make the merge at the end of this episode, and we have 3 eliminations. That's like my hot prediction, not my original thought. My brother brought it up to me first. I've seen it on the internet since. I think that we are getting a 3 elimination episode next week, and I think we're going to enter the merge.
It's 2 hours.
It's 2 hours, yeah. I think that's the main reason that a lot of people are speculating is because it's 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And that would make sense if we have to get 3 tribal councils. We would need the extra half an hour probably to get through all of that without rushing.
Weird to just not just do another swap, right? Like we're gonna have 3.
It sounds like it is basically a swap, right? They're just calling it this is something they've done consistently in the new era. It's just call something that's very either refuse to call something that clearly is the merge because they want to treat it as a twist when it's not, or call something that very clearly isn't the merge. The merge. They can't just call things what you would expect them to be called, right? Because if they are going to do this where they, the speculation is there's 17 people, 2 people go on a journey, exile island situation, and then they split into 3 groups of 5, and all 3 groups go to tribal council. Each group has an individual immunity, similar to kind of what they did with Sophie Savannah last season, maybe. That is just basically a swap. A 1-round swap right before the merge.
And it was fine in Cambodia when they did that, right? When they did that late swap, it worked. And it was really interesting to see how that shook out. So I don't know why. I mean, the one thing I am happy about is they put Coach in the merge buff in the intro. So I'm glad that spoiler is now out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
No surprises here for most of us, though, to be honest with you. I think we all see the winning game shaping up around Benjamin, Coach Wade, Ty Walker,
played a good game.
Player.
Yeah.
The more and more we get of Coach. Yeah, I think the more and more we get of Coach, his disciples that he's bringing along with him. I'm very, very
The
excited.
Coach Colt 2.0.
Listen, these challenges and these tribals are electric. I mean, like, you really don't know which way they're going. The edit's been great. I feel some type of way about Survivor watching it live that I have not ever, right? Since I've started watching live, officially caught up with everybody at season 41. So it's been a very, very entertaining watch. But the first time Coach goes to tribal, that his name gets brought up, I am going to be sick to my stomach. I'm very, very nervous for that.
Yeah, we got some great Coach content in this episode. Like, obviously, him giving Joe and Colby his ancient Japanese lore Dungeons and Dragons nicknames.
No, it's not Dungeons and Dragons, Ben. He
Oh,
made
so of
that
course
very
not,
clear.
very much not Dungeons and Dragons nicknames, definitely.
Yeah, the warrior and the wizard and token cheese. That's not. You guys play D&D, right? Like, those seem like classes for D&D. So I don't buy this. Also, D&D is cool now, Coach. You can own it.
I think on Tyson's podcast they cross-checked. What was it? Oakheart, Solar, whatever.
Yeah,
Oakheart. They cross-checked them all, and none of them exist.
It's not real,
on the internet. Yeah.
Or
So you just made these up.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Amazing.
It's probably more likely that he just got a lot of the names wrong and is just like very confidently saying the incorrect things. But
You're gonna be wrong. Be confident, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who like pretty regularly will butcher quotes or misappropriate them to the wrong people. So like, not a surprise, I would say.
No, that's true.
But yeah, I mean, we also got some good content from Coach in terms of like strategically. We got like this interesting aside where everyone on the tribe is like very clear that Aubrey is at the bottom, but then Coach has like a moment where he pulls Aubrey aside and is like, saying that he might look out for her, trying to essentially say like the people at the bottom can be valuable. You pull them in and you show them some amount of you basically like hand them some kind of olive branch. I thought that was like pretty insightful. And obviously like a lot of it is kind of basic strategy, but I think it's demonstrative that Coach is kind of tapped in on a lot of like kind of at least base level strategy for Survivor, which I think we all agree like Coach has the chops to play a lot of Survivor well. It's just that there's certain aspects of his personality and the way he carries himself that make actually closing very difficult.
I think he's learned. I think and that's kind of the theme of the season for everybody, is they're either completely haunted by their past of things that happened in Survivor, or they're completely learning from it. I think Coach and Ozzy and Colby are probably three of the biggest examples of that, because we've, the evolution of the game from when they first started playing to now, and how they've had to adapt and change. And pretty much all of them have had things that they've regretted that have happened in their game recently. I think that Coach is learning from it. I think that he's still very much the Dragon Slayer. I think we're going to get some of the Dragon Slayer. I think that will.
No, he's the Tidewalker now.
Tidewalker, yeah.
But I think we have a Dragon Slayer Tidewalker on our hands, which I think is basically Benjamin Wade embracing both being the Dragon Slayer and being Coach and being like a real human being. So that's why I think it would be a very, very a great winner's arc and a story overall of like the entirety of Survivor, is like when you look at where Coach was in Token Cheens, and then where he was in Heroes versus Villains, and then South Pacific, and then kind of capping all that off with a win would just be electric. Like, I joke about like being like a Coach disciple and like part of the coach of Colt, which is maybe partially true, but I think just as a fan of Survivor, I think that his story of if he can manage to win, when you look at where he began and when you look at how he got to where he is now in 50, it would be great. And it really, like, I think it would sum up a lot of the reasons we love Survivor. Like, he's a ridiculous person, but at the same time, he's a great player. And I think that he's able to flex that more now with the knowledge he has had about being maybe a little bit more self-aware, while at the same time being genuine to the Dragon Slayer. I don't know if people there on the island are taking him as seriously as I hope they are, or if it's kind of like becoming a joke that like, oh, we're playing with coach, like coach is just being coach. And I just hope that does not bite him in the butt if we get down to final tribal. And that's kind of like people don't respect the game that he's playing. That's like my one concern with coach is that everybody there, it's like a meme to them almost, like maybe not the players like Ozzy and Colby and Sari, but I think like a lot of the younger players that it's almost like a meme that coach is there and like the things that are happening. Like, oh my God, I want to play with coach because coach is coach. But I think he's playing generally a very smart game. I really do. I really think that he's playing probably the best game to this point that he's played. I think even outside of South Pacific too. I think that where he strategically has put himself in this game, in this situation now, I think is the best spot that he's been in since in any of his seasons.
Yeah, I mean, my issue with where he's positioning himself right now, I mean, this is like way down the line, right? Like, he's again creating kind of an honor integrity alliance, and I think that I do legitimately think he could beat Joe in a jury vote. I think that Joe is not widely respected by this cast, and if he were to basically play like kind of a rerun style game of 48, I don't think a lot of people would be jumping out of their seats to reward Joe. But I think it would be at very least a toss up between him and Colby. And so like I think he kind of needs to find a third person that he can sit at the end with. Maybe that's Aubrey, right? Like maybe Aubrey is the person that he can sit at the end with, like him, Joe, Aubrey. That's the final three. Maybe he could win. Like maybe Jonathan, if you pull Jonathan back in, Jonathan could be a person, like he might be able to beat Jonathan and Joe in a final three. So there are pieces there. I do worry that if he's like fully in and committed with these two as like his 1 and 2, like if he is not willing to vote out Colby or allow Colby to get voted out at a certain point, then he might kind of be walking into a losing end game. But yeah,
I wouldn't mind Colby winning either. But I do think that alliance getting to the end would not be very popular online.
Yeah.
I don't think we want the Trust and Integrity Alliance 2.0, but we'll see what happens. There's so much game left to play, but I really do like what Coach is doing, and I hope that he can own it at the end, because he is playing a little bit with fire, with being like, we're building this alliance on Trust and Integrity again. But maybe at the end, he'll be like, look, last time I did the same thing, but I didn't own it this time. Yeah, I played the game and I used this to my advantage because I knew it would work with these, particular players. And if he does that, totally can win.
I don't think he's done anything to this point that would have warrant him having to like own up to something that, and I know the game's going to get much choppier. He can't bring 14 people.
Yeah, he hasn't had to really play yet. He hasn't had to vote anyone off.
The one chance that he's had was with Ozzy when everybody promised overnight he got it, and he didn't, because he didn't agree to it because he's a man of integrity. But he hasn't had any reason to this point to need to have that happen, and it's because every tribe he's been on has been doing so well. I mean, he even made the play of the night too in the challenge last night, where for some reason everybody's so hell-bent on always pulling their hook back, and he decided to pivot where he was standing and pull it in that way. Probably that, along with Tiffany being insane on the lasso spin.
Yeah,
that was wild. I guess I don't know why nobody's ever done that, if it's just practically looped around like that, but that was really, honestly, that was probably what ended up getting them back in. I don't know how long it took everybody else to untie those bags, but that was wild to see. It's nice to see Tiffany getting some sort of spotlight put on her this season. So that was cool. That was also just really impressive to see. But I don't know. Coach he's a leader of men. He really is. He's a leader of men. He's a leader of women. He's a leader of people. And it's great to see him win, because like I said, the first time that he loses an immunity challenge and his name is brought up, I'm going to throw up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do think it's the one thing he has going for him is he's probably not a likely target, right? Like, I don't know if well, I guess it depends, right? Because if they do this like 5-5-5 split that's being speculated, like basically anybody can go, because it's so random. So maybe he could be in Charles. So yeah, never mind. I won't stake my Survivor reputation on saying that he should be safe next week.
We're already seeing, and we're not going to spend an hour on Coach because we haven't gotten enough of him in this season to really kind of warrant this deep of a talk. Because unfortunately, he could be gone next week. He could be, if we don't go off the buff thing.
Well, we've gotten a million things from him, despite the fact that he's never even gotten close to going to a trial council. So he's definitely meant to be like. Obviously, I think you have Coach last season, you show Coach, but I think he is likely to be like a pretty key character post merge. So.
I think / hope you're right. I think him going to Aubrey shows him growing as a player, because I feel like other seasons he would not go to Aubrey. He'd realize that Aubrey is the wounded bird that he needs to put out of its misery. Seems like a lot of players.
I feel like what was it? Who's
Edna?
Edna, yeah. It kind of reminded me of Edna.
Yeah, it's very Edna-like. Yeah.
Fair enough.
But
yeah.
Let's talk about what is it, Sela, the Orange Tribe, or do you want to talk about the Pink Tribe? I'm open to either.
I feel like more of the story is honestly with Sela, so I'd be fine to go with Pink is Christian and all them. Right?
Yeah. So we got Ozzy crashing out. Awesome, love it. He's always good for a good crash out, and this was great because they showed Cochran and Christian saying the same lines to him to placate him after it, and Ben, what do you think of that?
Well, I think it's quite funny because that comparison that was being made, because while they were saying the same things, I don't think that it was an appropriate comparison, because I don't know if you guys would agree, but in South Pacific, I would say Cochran didn't mean what he was telling Ozzy, whereas I think Christian did mean what he was telling Ozzy and was legitimately confused why Ozzy was upset. Even though like the words were the same, I don't think the intent and the behavior and the feelings were the same. So maybe that's, I guess, why, right? Like it, didn't work for Cochran to do damage control in that situation. And it did work for Christian eventually.
Daryl, what's up, Daryl? Good to see your name again.
Ozzy getting mad Ozzy also got mad in Micronesia, famously multiple times, and pretty much the only reason he didn't get mad in Cook Islands was because he was never on the wrong side of anything.
It would have been more alarming if Ozzy didn't act like Ozzy. I think that would have been because if I'm Ozzy, I would be mad, but I'd understand. But I also think I would have been far more. Ozzy was very confident in the position he was in at that point, where I would feel like I would have been far more nervous if I was in Ozzy's shoes heading out of that. And I think that Ozzy is sometimes maybe delusional to his stance in the game. And it's like him asking Christian for the shot in the dark. One, shot in the dark. It's sometimes you forget it's in the game, and then when it's brought up again, you just roll your eyes at shot in the dark. The fact that it's still there. I guess I understand Christian's hesitancy not to want to give him at first and be annoyed by that, but Christian, nobody was playing their shot in the dark that day. It was kind of like, it was almost like an Aussie read I had to play New Era Survivor for Dummies book before he headed out here to the island. He's like, oh yeah, shot in the dark. I don't get that from him. I thought that overall it was a nothing for Christian, and he had literally nothing to gain from it and everything to lose from it by not giving it to Ozzy, because you would have just got another Ozzy hissy fit if he didn't do that. So Ozzy is still Ozzy. That's same thing as Coach. They've hopefully maybe learned from their mistakes in their games, but they're that same player is still there in some capacity. And I think it's far worse with Ozzy than it is with Coach.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I get I kind of see both sides of this a little bit, because was Ozzy throwing a bit of a hissy fit? Yes, but should he have been that publicly throwing a fit? No, it probably would have been better strategically to not do that and to try to at least either pretend or handle things privately. But also from Christian's perspective, he seemed very surprised that that Ozzy was just reacting this way, which I think both demonstrates that Christian doesn't know anything about Ozzy as a player, even though he's played 4 times and Christian is supposed to be a fan of Survivor. And also, like, even like if it wasn't Ozzy, right? Like, you leaving somebody out of a vote is always going to be a risk that they're going to feel some type of way about it. They're going to, start to distrust you, feel like they're out of the loop, feel like they're not included in the primary decision-making fulcrum that's going on. Like, it's intended, like, the whole point of leaving somebody out of the vote is, like, you're telling them that they are not a part of the decision-making process that you are invoking. And so you should feel some type of way about that. Now, like, how you react to it is, like, a different thing, but, like, that should be kind of a wake-up call. And the fact that Christian seemingly didn't, like, see the perspective of that, especially given that he's somebody on his original season who was frequently left out of votes or was, like, the target of things or whatever, like, he should know how that feels and, like, what that, should indicate to you.
I think Christian's not a perfect player either. We've seen, right? Yeah. I think Christian was in a very, very good spot. I think a lot of things conveniently fell his way, but Christian is still not the perfect player that he kind of came off as those first few episodes.
I think is like a tough spot.
I think he kind of put himself in a tough spot.
No, I think like having the 2 David versus Goliath people on the beach with him, and then also 3 out of the 5, people of their alliance together. Like, you had Q, and that was easy. Q wasn't entangled at all. But then, it was going to get down to it. And even if you vote Steph off last week, what's going to happen this week? Like, maybe he doesn't convince Ozzy to vote off Mike with Emily, and now he's the target, or Emily's getting voted off. Like, it was a bad situation, but he didn't play it great either. But it was always going to, like, fail for him, I think.
It's easy to Monday morning quarterback the situation, and I know we did it last week talking about that decision to vote out Mike. I think Christian gets analytical, but I think Christian plays very, very emotionally a lot of the times. Like, you talk about a player like Ozzy, who plays very, very emotionally a lot of times. I think Christian is an emotional player. I agree, Daryl. I think that Christian is a very, very good player. I think that Christian's playing a very good game up until this point. I'm just a little bit nervous of his path that he has set forward for himself. I do think, like, Christian and Ozzy, if they turn this around into a team up, that could be very beneficial to them. Right. I think Emily, for the most part, I was big on, I was going on Emily last week for some of her decision making. She seems loyal to Christian, at least right now. So I think, like, especially when we get Devins and Christian back together and Emily, and if they pull Ozzy into that kind of, like, weird situation, then Ozzy maybe has Sari and then Steph, which, by the way, I think Stephanie deserves a lot of credit for how she's managed to keep herself in this game and kind of, like, not be the easy boot that I just figured she would be at this point. And she deserves all that credit, which I think it's kind of surprised me because I wasn't super high on Stephanie heading into the season. It's like Christian could very easily create his own, it would be far more of a democracy than the coach gang is going to be once we kind of get that clear split between 2 factions at the merge. But I think Christian could put himself in a very powerful position after this merge if he pulls in the right people. I'm just, like, he has shown himself to be emotional now, and, like, he can play emotionally while still being analytical. I'm just not sure if that will affect him overall once we get to the merge and him having to kind of reel in people that he maybe didn't want to originally play with.
Yeah, and I think it's hard. Like, Mike and Ozzy seemingly were friends. Mike said that Ozzy managed a restaurant that he went to a lot. What can Christian do about that? Like, it's something from before the game. The best thing would have been, to get Mike and Angelina out cleanly, but because of the prior relationship, and that's just something that these returning player seasons are going to have,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also tough like, I get it. They're friends. But when they played Survivor together, Mike and Angelina voted Christian out after working with him. So, like, how much are you going to, like, would it suck more to vote someone off like that and be, like, wrong because they were going to work for it? Or would it suck more to be like, oh, I'm going to work with them for real this time and then get got a second time, you know?
Yeah.
It would be harder for me to live with a second time that happening than me being like, okay, Mike and Angelina are going to take this really personally and not be my friends anymore. Oh, well, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess from my perspective, I just expected there to be more pre-merge to like with this tribe. And so from that perspective, I think getting Steph first, it kind of like was a way for Christian to kick the can a little bit and kind of give more space to guarantee more consistently that you get down to at least 3. But with the like super early like merge, fake merge, whatever this is, it seems like he's kind of gotten bailed out a bit by some of his like you know
100%,
by some of his like not suboptimal decisions. And I've also been vocal that I think that Emily outmaneuvered him and outpositioned him in this tribe.
She's if they go to another tribal, she's not going anywhere,
Yeah, both like with her relationship with Ozzy and then also just like kind of being an information broker to try to keep herself socially within a central position. It's just like, I don't know. I'm going to continue to glaze Emily until I'm proven wrong.
Fair enough. Well, Angelina, sad to see her go. I was looking forward to her playing this season. I wish they showed more of her. I don't understand why they didn't even show her reaction to Mike getting voted off. Like, you would think that would be more important than Ozzy's, but I guess if she's going right away, maybe they're like, we don't want to spend time on this for her. But disappointed. I know she's been very vocal in her exit interviews about being disappointed about the women of the cast not getting very big edits, and I do think that's fair, and something we've talked about in the new era is like the game being a little bit against women in some ways, just by having the 3 tribes 6 people format. That's kind of stopped being the case, but now they're leaving the women out of the narrative, which is something that's completely avoidable. And we'll see if they're still editing the show and they can make a course correction, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'll miss Angelina. Also, she was on my team. I'm down another.
Yeah, I think you guys have each lost 3, and I've only lost Kyle so far. So
crazy.
Ben has not had a player voted out, which is that's great.
I had Charlie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once again, we have not figured out the points. I'm trying to figure out now a way to pivot where I can get a whole bunch of points if I have like 2 people left in the end.
So let's be clear. We did figure out the points, and now Dylan wants to retroactively change the point system. Let's be. I drafted my team based off of who I thought was going to be going deep because I was prioritizing people who would probably be like in the 9 to 4 range as opposed to trying to pick the people who I thought was going to win. So
yeah.
I think winner should get 50 points. It's like Dumbledore trying to make sure Gryffindor wins at the end of the year.
Yeah.
They won all these
if you're gonna do a Harry Potter reference, you should be like catching the snitch, right?
Yeah.
Or like the rest of the Quidditch game doesn't matter. It's just about who catches the snitch.
No, you deserve a lot of credit, Ben. You've assembled quite the squad. I just don't think you get a winner on your squad. I think I got 2 winners in my team potentially.
Yeah.
I have Genevieve still.
Right, true. Let's talk about the one winner who's still in this game and her tribe, D. I am loving D's game. I think like to be playing this well as the only winner left in the game, as the best winner of the new era, very impressed.
D making the purge is probably one of the picks that people were least likely to make, right? I think D was taken very last, right? It was a D
She
or
was
Kyle,
the last one. Yeah.
which is
Well, Kyle was last. You picked
Oh.
Brian picked D, and then Dylan picked Ozzy, and then I was left with Kyle.
well,
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
so let's stop
Yeah.
talking about how great Ben's team is. I think let's move on to D is she's impressed me a lot, and I think we're seeing why D is such a great player. I think D is very good at reading the room and reading situations. And I'm very, very impressed by D. I'm impressed by D. I'm excited of this foursome that we've had assemble here on this tribe. But D is officially put me as very impressed by D. I think she doesn't have to win this season to make me impressed by her. I think getting to the merge and going deep is going to be very impressive because she was probably, I think we all agreed, maybe outside of Kyle, but maybe even more so than Kyle, she was the biggest threat to probably the players, all players entering this season.
I would have been terrified of D playing the game if I was on this season. So I can't believe that she's maneuvered herself into such a good position.
Yeah, this alliance is great. I mean, I think that it just kind of makes a lot of sense for these four specific people to kind of team up based off of like the things that they had like seem to look for in terms of allies, the things they kind of prioritize in their gameplay, just kind of like historical precedent from each of their past seasons. Like a lot of it just kind of like fits. And so kudos to D for like, I think something that happens a lot when winners return is there's like kind of two extremes. They either go like the JT route where they like play like super kind of chaotically because they feel like they're playing with house money, or they play like super conservatively because they're like afraid of their reputation getting tarnished. And I think the correct way to play is kind of what D is doing, which is like not kind of implicitly settling for taking like an okay position because, if you're D coming into the season, you're probably like expecting people to want to target you, want to get you out. You might think that your options are more limited simply because of that, because you might be conceived as a target. But like, and so that might lead you to play a little bit more conservatively, where you just kind of take the first option that's presented to you and be happy with it because, it's not you. But I think the correct way to play as a former winner is you have to kind of like craft the kind of circumstance that allows you to succeed, even if it requires you to neglect a kind of immediately safe route. And I think that's kind of what Dee does here, where she sees this path forward with Charlie and Jonathan and doesn't like it, doesn't see it as like a long-term fruitful thing. And so she's like, okay, let me see if I can create something myself. And she does.
Yeah, really impressive. Also very impressed with Rizzo this episode. Let's like give it up to him. I know he's not everyone's favorite player. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea. I love Rizzo. I feel like you guys do too. So let's be the opposite voice in defense of Rizzo here.
I think the focus really should be. I mean, Rizzo deserves all the credit, but I guess like if you want to not, before we get into the glazing of the RIZGOD, I think that if you look across and look at Charlie and how poorly he handled this, I think that it's Rizzo read the room. He did a great job of kind of going over to the girls and realizing he can use them and he's going to be the number for them. But I think Charlie destroyed his own game with like the obsession over the Maria stuff. And I think that was more the story to me than necessarily the RIZGOD continuing to rise above the future GOAT, as he has called himself. I think Charlie was very, very disappointing. And I think that Rizzo being alive still is impressive because we just assumed all the people from 49 would be taken out immediately. And I think aligning himself with Suri, of all people, I think the Rizgod and Suri teaming up on the beach is really not something I necessarily considered about this season at all, and it's kind of an insane group. But you throw Camilla and D in there too. It's kind of like so many different styles of gameplay too. I feel like that are all meshing together in the one, but they're all very likable, and I think that is something to say about it too. But yeah, I don't know. I think Charlie kind of ruined everything for himself, but Rizgod definitely deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, I mean, the story here obviously is heavily focused on Charlie's PTSD, trauma, whatever, from 46 with Maria. But like realistically, the reasons that he, like the main two reasons that he kind of loses here is mismanaging the relationship with Rizzo. Like you can be against Rizzo, but he is like not hiding that he's against Rizzo when he's like having conversations with them, to the point where Rizzo was able to read it and like form this counter insurgency against him. Just like things like revealing about the idol with Jonathan, like it's just so messy and unnecessary. Like you can target Rizzo and like create an environment where he still trusts you until his torch is snuffed. And Charlie dropped the ball there. And then also, it very much felt like Charlie was not kind of, you had this four who came over, the Charlie, Jonathan, D, and Camilla. It felt like Charlie was kind of really trying to drive a lot of the decision making to a degree that made D and Camilla not super interested in working with this group long term. And I think like just across the board, mismanaging of relationships felt to me more of why Charlie lost. And like the story with the PTSD and the trauma is very fun and very compelling, but it definitely like I think is hiding way more subtle bad gameplay from Charlie.
Yeah, and I think a big part of this too was Camilla coming off, like we talk about Charlie's past trauma. Camilla coming off of last season where things were going pretty well, and then she kind of got like roadblocked by this bro brigade, and she, lost all maneuverability because Kyle rightly saw that this was the best thing for him, but it wasn't the best thing for Camilla, and Camilla doesn't seem to want to let herself get into that situation again, which I respect.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I think like what will Camilla do? She's the swing vote. Like it didn't play at all for me, because I was like, yeah, there's no way Camilla is working with Jonathan instead of D, right? Like that's not like a thing. Like it doesn't matter how, like even if she finds Rizzo annoying or like she thinks he's like, hamming it up or whatever, like she's gonna work with Rizzo, D, and 3 over, Kevin's Jonathan and Charlie. Like that's not even a conversation.
Yeah.
You talk about Charlie just like waking Rizzo up in his little like boat bed. Like it's like his Survivor version of like when you're a kid and you have like the little race car bed. It's like Rizzo's on the beach. I don't know what was going on there. I don't know what was going on with Charlie, man. That reminded me of the Family Guy bit where it's like I have like a William Dafoe underneath my bed, and like William Dafoe like creeps out from behind. He's like, "Hey, you asleep yet?" And he's like, "All right, I'll check back later." And he scoots back in. Brian, clip that on TikTok. If you're watching this on TikTok right now, that clip just played, and Brian edited that in. We'll see how that goes if that actually happens. They just put more work on Brian's plate. That was very strange. And it was brought up on Tyson's podcast that if somebody who I know is pretty much against me, and who I'm not working with, wakes me up in the middle of the night when I'm probably like, for the first time after tossing and turning for 4 hours, I just fell asleep for 15 minutes. And you're going to wake me up to ask me if I told Jonathan about if I had an idol and not to worry about it because you went ahead and just told Jonathan for me. I would be so fucking annoyed with that person. Like I think Rizzo handled that very well. And I would have gone a little bit further than do Operation Bad Blood. I think that was just an insane move from Charlie. Just crazy. Like I am glad that he's not over the Maria thing because, like, I was upset, so I want the actual person it happened to be upset. But you can't let it ruin your game like this. Somebody else brought up, and I'm watching Second Chance right now, rewatching it. I'm actually towards the end. Somebody brought up that it's a similar story to Fishback and Joe, and maybe for different reasons, but it really is where Fishback was so traumatized by what went down with JT and Token Jeans that he saw Joe as being JT 2.0 and let that overtake his game and wanted to get Joe out. And I think Fishback probably played a little bit of a better game in Second Chance than Charlie played here in Survivor 50. But it's like it is a very interesting comparison because it like you let it completely consume your game and it ruined you. And I really wanted more from Charlie this season, so it sucks.
Yeah, and I think
Daryl,
go ahead, Brian. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna call out Daryl's comment about Rizzo giving him the ick. You're not alone. I'm trying to convince like my family to like Rizzo, and they're not having it either. They don't see the vision, and I think you will though eventually.
R-I-Z-G-O-D. This is a pro Riz God podcast. I think we're very
yeah, look, if Sari is gonna marry Rizzo, then that should be good enough for Survivor viewers. But yeah, going back to the Steam thing, I think that the big thing here, and I kind of want to jump in as we talk about specifically this tribal council and the discussion that happens, is that in Cambodia as well with Steven, it wasn't even like a similar issue with JT, right? Like it was 100% like an emotional reaction because the whole idea of what happened in Token Chains with Steven and JT was they were aligned, they were a duo, and they were like headed into an end game together. That wasn't the case with Joe and Steven. It wasn't like Joe and Steven were working together and as like a duo making the same kinds of moves, but like Joe was better in challenges and like better like socially. Like it just wasn't a comparable situation. And that's why like that kind of an emotional reaction to an assessment of your previous game is just not great. And I think like the big takeaway from this tribal council discussion that happens in this episode where they're all like, Rizzo, you don't know until you see your season back. You don't like you haven't seen all of the mistakes that you made and people talking behind your back and the fan reaction and all of this. But like that also means that Rizzo doesn't have as much baggage coming into the season to kind of learn the wrong lessons from his first season. Like he's just kind of like, coasting off of the energy that he has already had. And we see this historically throughout Survivor, as Rizzo even brings up that players who play in back-to-back seasons historically do very well. And the whole idea of like a Charlie coming back in, having seen his season and gone through it and experienced the trauma with Maria, that's like directly a cause of him misplaying this season. So yeah, I don't know. I think like many times players will play Survivor relatively effectively their first season and then lose because Survivor is an imperfect game that has variance, and they'll try to look for a reason why they lost when the reason is just like it didn't work out, right? It's just, but like everyone is like searching for like a reason or searching for like a way to improve their gameplay or like not make the same like perceived mistakes. But realistically, most of the time when you're being invited back for an all-star season, you maybe have like one or two small things you have to like slightly adjust. And you usually don't have to make that big of an adjustment, and people come in with like a huge misunderstanding of why they lost their first time. Yeah.
Charlie's upset about something that is not even true.
Sure.
It's going to be he's going to feel very silly. And I think that's the other thing too, is I think that he's going to feel very silly. And he seemed like very emotional in his confessional at the end after he got voted out. Like I think he legitimately was having like PTSD from everything with Maria. It's like, it's very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate.
I think he came in like the worst spot to be in, that you should have won your season guy who didn't win his season, because you don't have the $1 million, but you got all the baggage that comes with being a former winner. And I think like he came back and getting so close, being one vote away from winning, and putting all this pressure of like living up to the expectations of the fans. There's so many people are like, you should have won, Charlie. You're so great at Survivor. To go out like this probably hurt a lot.
I know, responding to Daryl, I know Rizzo said that him and Sophie were the closest ally, but like, I guess maybe personally, maybe he likes Sophie more, but him and Savannah were the allies from beginning to end of that season. Like Sophie came in, because Sophie came in, like was it at merge or when they had the first tribe swap? It was something like that, right?
I think the swap, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter, right? It's completely inconsequential to like the kind of narrative that Charlie was trying to paint him into, regardless, because like it wasn't the same scenario. Like Maria and Charlie had a very clear duo bond that Maria didn't have. Like it wasn't like Maria, Charlie, and Kenzie were a trio or anything like that. And Maria had like a strong, multiple, like most of the season relationship with Kenzie to that degree. It's just not a comparable situation at all.
It's also for just to get like, I couldn't tell if it was just like the edit. Like it's one of those things that typically in other seasons that if it was something that was brought up this much, we wouldn't see it on the final product that gets shown to us each week. But like it just seemed like he was that consumed by this completely, that it wasn't just like a couple cutaway things that he said that they just include. Like clearly he was completely consumed by like this whole thing.
I think him referencing it in the voting confessional was what sold it for me, that this wasn't like something that was a fabrication of the edit, for sure.
Yeah. No, I agree. I didn't know how, but he was saying it regardless. Like he was giving them the clips. So, but yeah, when he did his voting confessional, it was like, okay, yeah, this was really a thing for Charlie, unfortunately.
Yeah, but again, that wasn't. I think that like maybe led him to like play really poorly or like get so blinded by that specific thing that like it led to some of his bad gameplay. But like that wasn't like ultimately like bad gameplay. Like him targeting Rizzo, again, not bad gameplay. It's just like, and even if his reasonings were stupid, it's just like a lot of the things he did on his way there were really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I mean, again, like I think he came into the season with the expectation that he was looking for a way to not have the same thing happen again that happened in 46, when like the correct thing to do is to be like, that's a fluke situation that I couldn't have played around. I think Charlie played relatively optimally throughout 46, made very few mistakes, if any. Like, and it's just kind of like sometimes the jury votes bounce that way, right? Like, it happens on Survivor, it happens on Big Brother, right? Like, there's like plenty of situations where juries just kind of vote in unpredictable ways, where individual jurors and juries as a whole. And like, if there's not like a very specific thing, like in a coach situation or like a Russell Hant situation, where you can immediately point to like, this is the behavior that led to the jurors having this opinion of you, then you just chalk it up to variance and you don't make any meaningful adjustments to your game.
He is going to be someone that I think that they are going to be pressing to get back to it. They almost might throw him out there again, like JT, of like, oh, you did really bad. You did really bad. I guess Heroes versus Villains, he actually did not do bad, but he made one of the biggest fatal mistakes in Survivor history. JT was playing pretty well up until that point. But it's like, we're going to throw you back out there for game changers and do better than he has one of his worst outings. So I hope that's not the case.
Was perplexing.
I hope it's not the case for Charlie, because I think that this was pretty bad, but it does not diminish how well he played in 46, the same way that it does not diminish how well JT played in Token Change, which is like, in my opinion, I think a lot of people's opinion, was one of like the most perfect games that have been played by a winner. So, I hope.
I know you weren't around for it, Dylan, back then, but JT at one point was like a top 3, Survivor player.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think right after Token Genes, people would be like JT, like Tom Westman, right? Like these are like the names that people are talking about as like, the best players at the time. Parv was in the conversation after Micronesia as well.
Yeah. It's just so weird to think back on that and then where it ended up. I love JT though. I wish JT got to play on Winners at War or even 50. I think it would have been fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost after Game Changers though. It's the concern is can it get worse? Like, can it possibly?
I want to see. I want to see if it can.
And if it can, I guess you answered the question with that. Is, do you want to see it? I don't know if I would want to see it, but I guess
it's like a car accident. You can't look away from it, even though you don't necessarily want to see it. I'm just fascinated by JT's de-evolution.
I bet you he would never leave his idol at camp. I bet you that would.
No,
would never leave his idol at camp.
Not.
And he would never send it to anybody else in the other tribe. Those are 2 guarantees I guarantee you that JT would not do if he played again.
Yeah. It was much better when Stephen and Taj had the idol and it wasn't in his hands at all. That's really where his problems start.
Yeah, I mean, maybe his issue is just Sandra, right? Maybe it's just season without Sandra.
Good point. Yeah.
That is true.
I mean, she was kind of fucking with him with the sugar stuff. So I was, yeah. All right. We don't have to talk about.
We discovered that Sandra is JT's arch nemesis. This is what we just discovered on this podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Well, anything else from this episode that we didn't talk about?
No, I mean, overall, honestly, I was not that down about the Zach Brown thing like a lot of other people were, but I think that they definitely redeemed themselves this week. I think this was a fantastic episode. I think this season has been very, very, very good. I think we're shaping up for a very, very good post-merge, a very good purge and then merge. So so far this is delivered. I think the boot order has been somewhat ideal for the most part. I wish we had Q still in the game, honestly, but I think for the most part, some of these players that we've had out, we kind of expected to be out at this point, or we maybe didn't expect them to go that far, but we wanted a little bit more out of them. Charlie, I guess I kind of thought would go pretty far, but no, this season has really delivered. Very, very excited. Very happy to. I think the more we get the merge, the more we will spend time with other players too, and I think that will be very nice.
Yeah, Charlie was a pretty popular winner pick from when the cast dropped, so definitely probably the most surprising player to have gone up pre-merge out of the 7 for sure.
I'm disappointed by Angelina. I just didn't necessarily think that Angelina would go super far, right? I think I took her second to last round or third to last round.
Yeah.
It's just I wanted more of Angelina hijinks and more kind of ridiculousness from her, maybe more than I necessarily expect. I'm disappointed by her gameplay. I'm more disappointed by her kind of the edit she got.
Yeah, it's definitely disappointing. I think an additional thing is I think it showed that maybe I've been too high in her as a player, or it's again really hard to evaluate because we saw so little of her thoughts, but she seemed to not socially accustom herself to her tribe on either the pre-swap or post-swap tribe very well. Maybe it's just a bad cast for her. Maybe her maybe it's a situation where her legacy kind of precedes her, and a lot of people wouldn't want to work with her for that reason. But I don't know.
I think when women get into motherhood too, I think especially more than when men get into fatherhood, I think when women get into motherhood, they're just naturally significantly more mature than they were before motherhood. And I think that that's like a big thing too. She's probably far more understanding and patient with people than she was on David versus Goliath. And I think that she also doesn't maybe want to embarrass herself and looks back at some things on David versus Goliath and finds it a little bit embarrassing, even though it kind of made her a star. So it's definitely understandable. I think you're right, Ben. I think you're maybe asking too much to have the same person from was Dave versus Goliath almost 10 years ago at this point, right? Close to
she was in her 20s then, right? Like,
so
you change a lot.
So
I love Angelina. This didn't hurt my opinion on her at all. I would still love to see her on other shows, The Traders, something like that. I think she could still give good TV.
I think she would be fantastic on The Traders. I didn't really consider that. That's the natural progression, I think.
I think so, right?
I don't think Angelina is going to play Big Brother, so I think like Traders is fine. And I don't think she's going to play the challenge. I guess maybe she can if she wants to. So
I don't think
Angelina on Traders needs to happen. I need Russell Hantz on Traders. I need Coach and Russell Hantz on Traders. I think we need all that. I think Angelina. I very much hope this is not the last time we see her.
I don't think it is. If she wants to. I mean, she might not want to. But yeah. Well, Dylan, anything you want to promote before we get out of here?
This show, shout out Brian Wong. He's going to think that I waited until the last moment. Brian Wong, a very big anti-Rizgod guy. So he might have already turned this podcast off at this point.
He doesn't see the vision, but he'll get there. I trust.
He told me his number one hope and dream for this podcast this season is that Ben eventually says, shout out Brian Wong.
Shout out Brian Wong. There you go.
It has to come more natural than that.
Be natural.
No. So shout out Brian. Scott has been a big listener of ours. Obviously, we got Daryl in the comments. Very happy to have Daryl back in the comments.
Daryl, number one fan. We appreciate you very much.
We do. Daryl also stuck around for Traders, so that's a real one. No, just keep supporting this channel. Brian puts in a lot of work to this. Keep following the show. We get like a nice little following now each week when we go live, so I think that's a lot of fun. We still have a lot of survival left, and I think we have a lot of time left in this podcast, and I'm really enjoying it. So please follow us here.
Yes, Ben. Same thing. Anything you want to shout out, promote?
No, I've really enjoyed the season. Really still enjoying Extracted Season 2 and House of Villains Season 3, like I continue to say. Really just having a good old, fun time watching reality TV this winter into spring. So
I think we're seeing new stars be born in reality. Like Daryl just brought up Hot Rob, and I know Rob was on Love Island before, but he has ascended into, I think, like he's a star. I see him everywhere, and maybe it's just because my algorithm brings me to him everywhere. But I feel like he is everywhere, and I think that I think this returning player season is kind of going to be a mix of both, of creating new stars, and I think a lot of people that are tuning in for the first time, I think. We said it before, reality TV is back. It's not back to what it was in its prime, but it is back in a good spot.
Yeah, and I think
refined now too, because we were throwing a lot of random shit at the wall in the early 2000s.
Yeah, and Brian and I watched most of it.
Yep.
I mean, like,
bring back Kid Nation. I still say Kid Nation. Or the Apocalypse one where they had to, it was like half fake. It's like they had to set up like the filter.
Yeah.
They had like the Marauders out back. Bring another show like that
in the LA River. So good. I would love Solitary. That'd be my pick to bring back a show.
Yeah.
Most fucked up thing ever, but
really deranged show.
Yeah, it's really good. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching this and following along wherever you do. Check out the main channel, Wicked Everything. I just put out a video about the Survivor Castaway Island game. Dylan and I did a review for it before I went back, tried to play it, gave a newer review. Not much has changed. It's not very good, but I did put some work into that. So please go check that out. Those Fake Nerds for nerd and pop culture news, Wicked Sports for sports news, and our newest channel, History is Wicked, where we cover cryptids and urban legends. I need to get back to making videos on there. But really appreciate everyone checking this out, having a lot of fun. I love season 50, even though I have my complaints about production design and stuff. But thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.